Zoom is streaming live into the world. People are watching. Things are happening. Who knows what kind of things? And now, here come our beautiful attendees, including our illustrious guest. Hang tight, y'all. I read my news first, and then I enable everybody on the panel to unmute and turn on their cameras. And if you're watching me live, give me just a second as I put all my channels together. We're now streaming into YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X. Not that anybody watches X, and LinkedIn. And we did it. Hello, and welcome to the Daily Sigh. My name is Qasim. I go live every single business day at 6 p.m. Eastern to the very best of my ability. I give you everything that I think matters in the entrepreneurial world across business, AI, markets, policies, platforms, and I bring some of the smartest people on the planet to help keep you informed as well. Because I don't know about you, but I am overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. And so I thought, wait a minute. What if I get a bunch of wicked smart people together and we just talk about that? And that's the topic every single day is what do we do? What is the verb? Today is Wednesday, May 13th. And if you weren't already aware, a bunch of stuff happened. SAP, today is Thursday, May 14th. And if you weren't already aware, Qasim is on the wrong tab. AI news, Anthropic targets SMB AI adoption gap with Claude for small business. We talked about this yesterday and it still blows my mind. Anthropic is embedding AI agents directly into small business staples. QuickBooks, PayPal, HubSpot. This removes the quote complexity barrier for founders. I wonder if that's good or bad for QuickBooks and HubSpot. Because at a certain point, you have to imagine Anthropic's going to turn around and shoot him in the back and just say, I can do all of this for you. It's like, here, come learn my business so you can take over my role. We'll see how that plays out. Google News reports Wall Street reprices software growth around AI disruption. Yeah, thank you, Google, for the news. We've known it's happened. SaaSpocalypse, etc. AI News reports the rise of bottom-up AI adoption and the $420 billion boom. I will say, I said bottom-up before anybody else said it. Hashtag, trademark, etc. Knowledge workers are driving a massive economic boom by integrating AI into their workflow independently of corporate mandates. Basically, your employees are getting out ahead of you. MIT Technology Review says data sovereignty in the new AI security standard. The rush to adopt AI is creating a massive vulnerability, obviously. Companies are trading control of proprietary data for immediate AI capabilities. AI security tools are cutting threat response times by 50%, but they introduce new risks like chatbots erroneously leaking private phone numbers. If I had to guess, this is a paid publication, and there's probably a pitch somewhere embedded in there. Some backup stories. Institutional era of crypto is arriving faster than expected. Thank God. Dimitri will talk about that, I'm sure. El Nino, climate volatility accelerating. Tesla semi enters production. Interesting. Electric freight is moving from hype to hardware. Logistics heavy businesses need to plan for physical shift in transportation models. That's not good because I just started a septic business. And that's it for the stories. Let's now turn to the council. If you're not already aware, you can always join us live. Go to dailysigh.ai, join the Free Forever community. We're at almost 1,800 people, and there will be a link to the Zoom in the calendar. We'd love to have you here, or you can continue to watch via live stream. No matter what you do, you can have everything in the Daily Sigh summarized and sent to your inbox daily and or weekly. Just go to dailysigh.ai. And without further ado, council, I have enabled your video and your audio. Please come hither, come forth. I see Lee, Katie, Dimitri, mine, that's Steve, Quinn, Isan, Jason, Daniel, Neil, Dimitri Smirnov, the guest of honor. What's up, brother?
What's going on, Qasim?
I love you, dude. Every time I see you, I'm like, oh, it's my buddy. I'm so glad you're here.
That's right. Yeah, I am your buddy, and you are my buddy.
We're buddies. I was showing everybody yesterday, because I'm obnoxious, I was showing them my E-Trade portfolio. And I was
Good.
like, I have all this money because of Dimitri, because I make purchases based off of the advice of three humans. It's you, it's Perry Belcher, and it's Yvonne. Yvonne got the middle finger. And I'm up 88%, and you're literally 80% of my portfolio. And y'all, Dimitri's my favorite person to listen to, honestly, just in general, just in life. He's like a philosopher. He just sits around thinking about shit. I don't think he works. He lives on a farm in Virginia. And and when you get him riled up, he challenges everything that you believe and he kills all sacred cows. But then he'll also just text me and he'll be like, I'm buying QDPR. If the moon landing happens the way that we think it's going to happen and sesame seeds do end up being volatile, like he'll start putting all his freaking dots together. And then I'm like, all right, dude, I'm going to go buy that shit too. And then it goes up. And so far, it's only ever gone up. I think. I think I've had one loser from you, dude. And then what was really funny is, oh, you know what? I know exactly what it was. It was AMS AM.
Yes. Yeah. Check it again.
No, I
Check it
know.
again.
Here's what happened. Bro, I swear to God, this is true. I'll show you the timestamps. You told me by AMSC. I bought it plummets. And I sat there looking at it and I was like, you know what? The smartest guy in the world told me to buy this damn thing. And all I've ever heard is buy low. So I doubled down, dollar cost average, as the experts say, and I'm now up 13 grand on that bitch. Uh yeah. So you actually haven't had any losers, you've only had winners. I'd love for you to introduce yourself, dude. Dimitri's got the most amazing story. He's such an interesting human. He's been a collegiate athlete with two.
Uh, yeah. No, I didn't. I wasn't a collegiate athlete, but I did referee collegiate ice hockey
That's
as
what it is.
well
But it was not
as
just, but you're also, you didn't you play softball at like a really high level?
I played baseball pretty
Baseball.
well. Yeah, I played
Yeah.
hockey a little bit, but yeah, that wasn't where my claim to fame, unfortunately, although it was a childhood dream of mine.
Was a professional gambler starting at 13 years old?
Yeah, that's when I got into it, and by 15, maybe 14 or 15, I was playing pretty significant stakes on Party Poker. I don't know if any of you guys would recognize that name, but there's Poker Stars and Full Tilt and Absolute Poker. And I got my niche playing these six-person sit and goes where the winner gets most of the money of the table. And I got really good at that. So good that it even consumed my entire life as part of the reason I didn't end up being a baseball collegiate athlete because I stopped going to school because playing poker online was way more fun.
Bro, you
In
dropped out of
fact,
school at 15 years old to play poker online professionally.
my senior year, of high school, my GPA was a whopping 0.14, and somehow they pushed me out of there without holding me back.
That's so
But
funny.
everyone thought I was doing drugs, but the fact of the matter is I just playing poker online.
I love that, man. And then Dimitri's obviously been very successful and done very well in the media buying world, owns an agency, runs ads for all the names. So anybody who's a name that does those great big launches and all that stuff, Dimitri's been the man behind the scenes. He was making the rounds at War Room for some time. I know publicly you can say you've done ads for the Wolf of Wall Street. I don't know what other names you can drop, but if you wanted to, now
Well,
would be the time.
out of the big guys, we've also done Robert Kiyosaki. We worked with Brooke Castillo. I work also not just with names. I mean, a lot of those were projects that end up being successful, but my most successful clients are high ticket lead gen programs, coaches, anyone who's selling something for 20,000 or more. And I've cornered the high end, high income market. I wouldn't say I cornered it, but I just did. But I
Dude, I'd
want to.
say you'd cornered it. I don't know anybody else that does that.
Yeah, we're just really good at getting the high income from YouTube, from Facebook, from anywhere pretty much, and we know how to speak to them properly.
Yeah. And then you have a wife and two littles, and
Yep, yep.
you're behind me, right? You're there 6 and 3,
Yeah,
five,
five and about to be three.
5 and 3.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, I guess I start by saying I am a family man, but I do have all these other hobbies, including media buying and aspiring homesteading, doing
Yeah.
math on the side and stuff like that.
So this is the other thing that's interesting about Dimitri is he'll call me up and we'll have conversations about like the sun. And you said something that stuck with me. I've quoted this often. You said, dude, we're basically walking plants. You're like, if you
Uh,
want to be healthy, it's like good air, good water, good light. And so Dimitri was lecturing us. We did this workshop. My girlfriend hosts these things called knowing dinners, and we did a long one. We all stayed in the same house. We had really deep conversations. And at night, Dimitri's wearing these freaking annoying ass, like I don't know what they would be, red light glasses.
oh, they're called blue light blockers, and
Yeah.
I understand how
You look
annoying
like
they
Bon
work.
Jovi sitting there in the middle. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? And you're like, well, they have the halogens on. And then he started tell us the thing. What's the,
Well, we're all, like you said, we're all walking plants. We have a biological clock. We have circadian rhythms, and we want the certain type of light wavelengths at the right time of the day and night. So when it's the morning, you want to get that morning sun, and that's more of a depending. Well, it's part of the spectrum of light. I mean, if you're into, for instance, um, cannabis or CBD, there's all different kinds of spectrums of CBD. And so getting a full spectrum is when your body really absorbs it. So same thing with the sun. During the day, you want to get more of that blue light. So when you're on your screens, it's not that bad when it's the middle of the day because technically your body is supposed to be, your eyes are supposed to be getting that. Towards the evening, though, it should be transitioning into more reddish and definitely at night, red light. You don't want any blue light, especially non-native EMF blue light, such as from screens, which is, what most of us
All
spend
of it.
our evenings doing.
Yeah, so now every time I get on a plane, I have this stupid ass freaking tinfoil hat beanie because what was the thing you made me buy? Is it a Geiger?
Yeah, it was an aluminum foil roll that he would have to roll around his head to get on an airplane.
Dimitri literally bought a radiation count. He's like, I carry this everywhere. And he's like, do you have any idea what you're exposed to on a plane? Like, and then I bought one. I was like, holy shit! Like, it really is. It's bad.
Yeah, so the worst place to get radiation is an airplane, especially when you're standing up and close to the ceiling, because that's where they put all of their routers. And so you have several routers on an airplane, and you're right next to it. Imagine coming up to your router at home and standing right next to it. And that's the radiation that you're getting. Airplanes in general are very challenging on people's body. One of the funniest things I've heard, I think a dentist say, because I rejected a dental X-ray, and they're like, "Don't worry, you only get as much radiation as you would on a cross-country flight." And I'm like, "Okay, but a cross-country flight takes 6 hours. This is instantaneous, and it's the same amount of radiation. So it also matters how much you're getting over what period of
Mm,
time." But with the aluminum of the airplane, all of that EMF, which is electromagnetic fields, and especially non-native, meaning it didn't come from nature, is pretty toxic to the body. And for some people, it's worse than others.
yeah, dude, this is what I love about you. You have such a beautiful mind, and you just sit around thinking about shit. And that's why I just picture you like just outside in freaking the fields of Virginia, just like a weird little leather-bound notepad with paper that you make yourself, and a quill pen, and just thinking about shit.
I
So
haven't gotten to making the paper myself, but that's a pretty good
that's
idea.
100% a Dimitri Smirnov type of thing to do, though. Uh, Talk to us about what you see right now. What I've promised everybody is we're not going to catastrophize and we're going to stay actionable. Like looking at what we're all looking at in a post-AI world with AI eating all the jobs and robotics catching up. What does somebody do? Like you're a prognosticator. That's your role in life for me anyways. You're my crystal ball, dude. So what do I do?
Well, the first thing I think is to kind of connect to the land and just kind of chill out for a minute. That's why I like the farm,
Mm,
because all of what is happening out there isn't happening necessarily like at my house. So that gives me a sense of calmness, at least to start. I do think about what does it mean to be human in the age of AI, and I go in waves. But currently, I am very much not in a catastrophe mode whatsoever. In
bro, I
fact,
can tell you got like your little cardigan thing. You look like you just had some tea. Like you look great.
yeah, this is an alpaca blanket. It's
Know
highly.
what that is? All right.
Um, I was thinking about this the other day, and all of what is available to be optimized is so vast and so grand that I actually don't think our jobs are that much at risk, to be honest. Like when you really think about what can be optimized, I even just looking at my house, looking at my property, looking at my neighborhood and street, I'm like, wow, all of these things could be optimized, whether it's buildings or the way the piping is done,
Mm.
the wells, the filters, the gas stations. I mean, you go on, and that's why it's such a big opportunity. And that's why people are seeing it as a big opportunity, AI and robotics. Of course it is. But this build out, I don't think this is a 2, 3, 4 year build out. I think this is a 25-year build out where, and by that time, we're going to have a better understanding of where to go from there. But I don't think the jobs are going to get eaten. Yes, some jobs are getting, but overall, I'm pretty optimistic.
What do you what I mean, you got littles, you got a 3 and a 5-year-old. What are you going to tell your kids to do? As they're, and I know that there's no way to know, right? But as you're looking at it now, like how important is post-secondary education? What is it that you're putting an emphasis on in terms of what you teach them?
The most important thing, and right now I'm teaching math to my daughter who's 5, and I'm teaching her about the number 10. And I don't know if any of you guys have kids or have gone through the Common Core curriculum or anything. I'm actually a big fan of the Common Core
You
curriculum.
are not, dude. You're the most contrarian person I know. You've said two things here that are just keep going.
And I can explain the reason why, but I'm thinking about 10, and it's 10 is such a fundamental part of mathematics, and I think what people need to learn is whatever the foundations are of the main axioms of life, whether it's math, family relations, and interpersonal relations. That's such an important thing that we don't actually stress from a
Mm,
school perspective, at least. uh, and survival, and it doesn't have to be apocalyptic survival, but can you garden? Can you raise some animals? Can you find water? Can you filter? Like basic stuff. I think if you have foundations, what I found in my life, I've hopped from thing to thing, but my foundations of and axioms have helped me achieve success in many of those fields, whether it was even athletic or using my brain and doing work.
mm. I love that, dude. It's like diversify inputs and outputs and then adjust accordingly.
That's exactly right. If you go all into a certain field right now, it's very risky because it may change such that you can't adjust. So post-secondary educations that should be very, very niche moving forward, if it wasn't already, but it just seems like um, it's not a good return on your investment, really.
Hmm.
And it depends. I also want to talk about what are your life goals. Like some people's life goals is just to make money. Post-secondary education's almost certainly not good for that. If you want a well-rounded life, I like to call it a big life. I name my company after that. You want a big life, meaning you want to experience richness in a variety of cross sections of life. Again, maybe post-secondary education isn't for you, and that's independent of AI.
Yeah. Yeah. What a good point that is. AI didn't kill post-secondary education. Post-secondary killed post-secondary education. I want, so the promise I made everybody is how to build a focused investment using data, which is actually the promise you made because you filled out the form. But before we do that, can you talk to me about Big Life? Because I love that whole thesis, dude. I think it's great.
Well, I think that most people are on this planet, and the way they and the goal that they have is to live a big, fulfilling life. And that doesn't necessarily mean achieving things or doing things, because a big part of a big life is just the being energy.
Hmm.
There's doing energy and there's being energy. And I'm actually learning this right now. This is a big process. A lot of A type and high achievers are in the doing energy, and it's very masculine, and that's good. It's good to have that. But then there's the yin and yang of life, and the being energy, and something that I'm really getting a lot from my wife, and leaning into it. I actually have a different word for it, LIVIN apostrophe, which spells living. We all want to do a lot of living. So I don't know how coherent that was. Hopefully, the vibe is getting passed through, but that's essentially what a big life is.
I think that was super coherent. I like what you said about being. Uh, that's a challenge that I've not necessarily addressed, but I'm with you as far as seeing the value and understanding. I hate the evocation. I'm going to go for it anyway, but Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. Like I return to that book every 10 to 15 years, dude. And I'm like, oh yeah, you kind of nailed it, or at least nailed the next phase for me. So I like that you brought that up. What am I not asking you that I should be asking you? What would a smarter person ask you? What would Dimitri ask Dimitri?
Oh, um, well, I know we're going to get into investments and picks, and I want to talk to you guys about fundamental analysis, technical analysis, mixing the two, as well as what your gut is telling you. I know a lot of us are driven by gut decisions, so I want to talk about those three things. But in terms of from an introductory perspective, what can you ask me? Um, I don't know. Are people able to chat? Maybe we can ask them for
They're
like
all mutes.
thing.
Every one of them. I only let, yeah. No, I'm just kidding. Y'all, if you got a question for Dimitri, feel free, pipe up, throw it at him. Try to break him. I have yet to do it, but I'd love to see it happen. I'd love to see him stumped once. It would actually make me feel good to see him humbled.
uh, I guess I would ask just like how did I end up here? And and the answer to how I ended up here was was I guess a combination of luck and persistence and listening to things that listening to others who sounded inspirational.
Mm,
You know, because I found that negative talk, and that's not like explicit necessarily. It can be underlining a conversation or a an entire relationship or anything. It's just I kind of feel like that's oftentimes the norm. It's like I don't like my job. I'm not going to do a good job because they don't pay me enough. That's the type of negativity I'm talking about. Or you
mm,
shouldn't do that because and then reason. Like and so for a long time there were a lot of people who were telling me about the normal road. Okay, you know the cross section or the fork in the road that we all know about, which is the normal path that most people go on, and then the alternative or the road less traveled. And I think there's a certain amount of belief that you have to have in the road less traveled, and courage, of course, and persistence. Um, So I'm happy about where I am today and how I got here. That was such a weird turn, but you asked me and I went super philosophical in there, and maybe we can talk about more at the end of the call, but I
I don't
guess
think
we
that was
should
a
get
weird turn
into
at
the
all.
investment.
Katie asked, you mentioned sticking to your axioms. The question would be how you choose your most important ones.
Oh, that's a great question because all you have to do is work backwards.
Hmm.
Well, some people say work from first principles, but first work backwards is the easiest thing. And going back to big life, what do you want your life to look? Just basically, what do you want your life to look like?
Mm,
And pick 3 to 5 categories. Whether it's like this is how I want my relationships to go, or you can be more specific. My relationship with my spouse. This is how I want my job to go. This is how I want my money to be. This is how I want to feel on a day-to-day basis. And then you just work backwards. Like, what is it? What do I have to do in order for that to be true? I have to listen to my spouse and I have to respond and not ignore. Okay, that's a good start. How do I want to feel good on a day-to-day basis. Okay, well, you have to be in bed by 10:30 and you have to avoid non-native EMF blue light at night, and you have to eat well and walk sometimes. Like, okay, so now all of a sudden you have like the next layer is already a doing layer of what you need to be doing,
mm.
and then you just go on and do it. It's actually not that complicated, but the axioms all are working backwards from what do you actually want.
I love the way you phrase that. The next layer is already a doing layer. Uh, the form for action. All right. Beautiful. Let's transition. You said you wanted to talk about goals, and then we're going to talk about focused investments. You tell me what we're talking about, dude. I don't know how to do any of this stuff.
Yeah, let's talk about wait, I don't what goals are I don't know what goals
Well,
we're
you
talking.
said at the beginning of this call, you're like, I want to talk about goals. And maybe I picked up on
Oh,
something I
yeah, no,
shouldn't
we
have.
actually did talk about that. So we covered big life. That is in
Okay.
fact
That's
goals.
what you're referring to.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
by the way, I spent Qasim runs an incredible high-end mastermind for business people and marketers and AI specialists, and it's
Everybody
called
should
Driven.
join. You should all come give me money.
Yeah, I've been in it for years, and it's really great. And we went on a cruise in October, and I spent a good chunk of that cruise talking to people about what their goals are and why they are their goals.
Mm,
And the what your goal is was a lot easier than why.
why?
And so you have a boat full of high achievers who couldn't get away from me in this conversation. I had to answer the why. Uh, and and I think it's a good thing to ask ourselves. Like once you think what your goal is, some people never even think about that. I mean, Qasim, you and I both love Jordan Peterson, and he does the self-authoring program, and that's pretty much what this is. Just like, what do you want to do and why? Just take a 5 minutes, take 15 minutes, and figure it out because you might find that that will just direct where you go with your time and with your life.
Yeah, that's beautifully stated. I was just looking at my self-authoring results yesterday. I'm building out my second brain in Claude, and I'm loading it up with like my personality tests and my Enneagram. And I was like, oh yeah, I have that thing. And I forgot how profoundly powerful that was. Uh, Thank you for that, dude. That's awesome. Uh, let's segue. Talk to me about because you're my dude. I've talked all this shit to everybody about just like how I just listen to you. How do you do what you do? Like your ability to, because there's only every option available to us. And you just have this framework for thinking where it's like, oh, distillation, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm doing. Even as I'm answering questions, man, I'm watching it happen or asking questions, excuse me. Like Katie said, how do you choose your axioms? And you're like, oh, well, you start backwards. Like you just seem to have like a rules engine or I don't know what it is, frameworks or filtration mechanism. Like how do you think? Teach us.
Oh, huh. How do I think? I think I think that one of the reasons I fell in love with internet marketing was because it's the perfect combination of math and creativity.
Mm,
And I see that application in so much of life. The math side or the analytical side and the creative side. And the two of them coming together, maybe it's the the yin and the yang again. I mention it, but it's these two in particular where they are both required for proper due diligence to have happened because you can analyze a stock, for instance, or an investment from an analytical perspective, and that's good. But if you miss the whole energetic and creative perspective, and energetic may be even a third category, but if you miss the other side of it, well, you've only got half the picture, maybe less. So
mm,
that's how I like to think about. That's how I like to think. Let's just leave it at that.
that's great. Uh, let's jump into the investments. Obviously, you guarantee results here, and everything that you're telling us is 100% like gonna
Yeah.
make us all millionaires.
Right, right. Yeah, and I mean, we could start a fund today, in which case, like, sure, I guarantee it based on whatever the normal disclosures, I mean, disclaimers are. Um, okay, so let's start again with kind of as high up in the principal ladder as we can. The whole idea of investment is to compound your money. You want your money that you have to grow. You don't want it to stay flat, and you certainly don't want it to go down. And again, I just want to remind you guys, it has to be a reason for you to want to do that. You have to know what the reason you want your money to grow is, because I just want it to grow is not a good answer, and it's going to get you in a lot of trouble. It's
Mm.
going to get you in the get rich quick, lose everything really fast situation, which has happened to me um, actually a couple times. So you have to know why you want it to go up, because you need to know what you want your money to grow by on average over, let's say, an annual return on
Mm.
average. Because if you want 4% growth and you can be happy with that and you can retire, you can invest in 4 to 5% treasuries for 30 years right now and never look at another stock chart ever again
Mm.
and sit on your porch and be happy. That's really important to know.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to do any research. You don't need to risk any money. Okay. If you want, well, I need a higher return because, let's say, because I am trying to achieve some net worth, because that's what's going to buy me the house, because that's going to make me happy, because I can host my big extended family every weekend, and that's been my dream forever, and I want it all in the next 10 years. Okay, well, at least we have a reason why, and we have a time frame, and we know what you need to get to. Okay. Once you have that, you start looking at, well, what can I, what's my expertise? And if your expertise is in something other than picking stocks, don't pick any stocks. Because even the best managers most of the time don't beat the S&P 500 over
Mm. Wow.
over a 10-year period or longer. So if you want to get 8 to 10% on your money over a long period of time, just park it in the S&P 500. Another thing you need to know is, what is your maximum risk tolerance? Meaning, what drawdown can you tolerate without selling low? And I want to talk about that from a psychological perspective. The S&P 500 has gone down 40, 50, I think more than 60% even, I think, in the last 30 years. Can you tolerate your entire portfolio losing half of its value? Because if you can't, then you can't invest in that instrument, because you will sell at the worst possible time. That's the way the market is designed. As a matter of fact, I bet a lot of you could relate to when you buy a stock, the next day, guess what happens?
Always. Yeah.
There's a reason why that happens. It's because the market is designed to push out the weak hands, and that it's designed to push out, to make you buy high on excitement and exuberance, and to sell low on fear and panic. It's just that it's literally a psychological design, just like the casinos are designed to take your money.
I always thought God was just watching and knew when I bought and then would crater the stock for me. Like that's been my that's what made the most sense given the consistency of this experience.
Yeah, and guess what? The ones that you've held, even though they dropped that next day, you held on to them. What happened?
Mm.
Because you got through that initial psychological period. And that's just a day to slash swing trading. If you're a long-term investor, you shouldn't even care what it does from a day-to-day perspective. Just as an aside, the best place that you can be is what's called, or what I'll call, an exit velocity, meaning your investment has already gone so much up that it would be irresponsible from a tax perspective to try to trade it.
Look at Neil laughing. Look, if you can make the tax guy chuckle, dude, because I didn't understand why you said that, but Neil liked it.
Because at that point, when you if you sell it, you're on the hook for all these capital gains tax, or even worse, your regular income tax if you have held it for less than a year. Then you're like stuck with the position. You're not concerned about it anymore.
Hmm.
Okay, but coming back to the principles, if you do want to be a participant in the markets, you have to come up with some sort of thesis. And your thesis has to be defensible. Like you have to do a debate between your thesis and then research everything against your thesis and decide, does your thesis win? Does it make sense? Because if you're just guessing, again, you're going to buy low and sell high. I mean, you're going to buy high and sell low. So what is your thesis? And Qasim, when we first started getting into these things, I outlined the three. I outlined the three theses that I had, and this was, I think, in May, or when did we? Maybe it was April. It was literally April 2025, was it? I think it may have been then, which was the tariff drop at that time.
Hmm.
And the three theses that I had were Bitcoin, drones slash space exploration and related, and electricity. And so when Casa mentions AMSC, that's an electrical component company. And if you guys have been in the market at all for the last year, you know that anything electric or grid uh, has just absolutely mooned. So I can go into how to come up with theses or why those theses, or we can go in another direction. But let me stop there and pause for questions or comments, maybe.
One thing I want to say is um, the people I like to listen to are the people who I feel a strong values alignment with. And I think it's the reason, I think what you're saying is the reason. Like, I don't just buy stocks because a friend of mine tells me. I buy stocks because I'm following people who it's an X and a Y, right? It's like along the level of analysis pertinent to that stock, I feel a values alignment with that person. And I think that's a lot of what you're saying behind the thesis. I remember our early stage conversations when you started talking to me about it was like you said, drone, space, sky, power. Everything that you were saying made so much sense. And you said it 18 months before now, because that thing was about a year, 18 months ago, before I heard anybody else talking about it. Now all of a sudden I'm starting to hear, now, power has been a conversation, but um, it was just really interesting, dude. It was interesting to me that you got out ahead of it so much faster, and we had I align with your values and the things that you were saying. So I think I like what you're saying about the thesis because that feels really important. You need galvanization. You need to feel emboldened. You actually need to believe. That's why I like the MSC. When it fell, I bought more because it wasn't because, oh, my buddy Dimitri told me to buy these four letters. It was, I understood your thesis and then I knew what to do when something happened, which was really, really helpful. Curious if anybody has any input or questions or comments on what Dimitri said so far.
Yeah, I have a question on what you just said.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm an avid Bitcoiner for almost a decade now, 5,000 hours plus studying it over the years. So I have formed my thesis, and as to what Dimitri said, I have thought hard and on all the different counters to it, and
Mhm.
had plenty of debates with many people over the last decade. What I find, because I love to talk about it and help other people get there also, but they're never going to hold any investment if they don't have the conviction that I have,
Mm.
right? So how much research did you do after Dimitri told you to buy that stock that actually gave you the conviction to double down when it was down?
It's funny. It wasn't the research I did after. It was the stuff I'd been learning before. So what Dimitri did, I had a refrigerator full of ingredients, and Dimitri gave me the meal because I was looking at what was happening from a power perspective, the fact that everybody's talking about the grids. I've been looking into buying a septic company. Fun fact, I'm not into septic just because of septic. What comes with septic is drilling. A lot of people don't know that septic and drilling are intricately entwined, and I like the drilling business because you got to drill every pole that goes in the ground, every power station that's built has hundreds, if not thousands, of little holes that need to be dug, and the companies that get to go do it are septic companies. So I'm looking at all these things, and then Dimitri comes to me and says, "Oh, this company," and I'm like, "Oh, the ingredients are there, and I just made the meal." So doing it post mortem, I'm sure is probably equally as valid, and I don't know that I have all that it takes in order to do that. I think that's what a day trader is. I think a day trader hears the information, does the synthesis, and researches. It might have just been right place, right time that a really smart guy that I love and respect told me something that aligned with my experience and my values judgment.
Yeah, and Wayne makes a great point about conviction, and he's exactly right that there's no way to withstand these drawdowns that can be pretty nasty, especially in Bitcoin. But you can look at any of the popular stocks, they're just as volatile. You could be down 60, 75% within the matter of a couple months. How can anybody take that drawdown without conviction? Like, no. I mean, look at Amazon from the dot-com crash. I remember hearing an interview of Bezos saying, I kept looking at my stock dropping and looking at my internal KPIs, and they're all going up. That man had conviction because he had the information to see it. It wasn't just like,
Look at
I
Meta
hope it works
just
out.
dropped to $100 a share post. Remember the post iOS 14? Like this is in the last 5 years. Meta went down to 100.
Yeah.
It's at 618 right now. Like
Yeah.
that, I don't think Bitcoin's had that big a swing in like to the point that you said something that really blew my mind, dude, that I never knew. There's so many things I don't know. And I'm going to say this wrong, Dimitri, and then you say it right. I always thought the S&P 500 was the same 500 companies. And what Dimitri taught me was, he goes, the S&P 500 is extraordinarily volatile, and it's not a good scorecard for the economy because if a company starts to fail or go down, they just fall off the S&P. So basically, the S&P 500 is just a snapshot of all the healthy companies. So if like you had a herd of animals and you're trying to get a finger to the pulse of how well this herd of animals are doing, and all you did was take like an analysis of the top 1% of them, and you're like, they're all healthy. This is great. And anytime
Yeah.
one got sick, you just took them off the scorecard. Like that's what we're doing from an economic perspective. I never knew that. I always thought it was the same because you know what I mean? Nobody tells you that shit.
Yeah, that's
That
why
is
it's so powerful to be the S&P 500 is a momentum ETF, meaning exactly what you just said. And that's one of the dangers of investing in individual stocks is most companies, when you think about it, most companies go bankrupt. But the S&P 500 never goes bankrupt because you just got new companies coming in. But other than a few companies like JP Morgan, but they've had merges. But if there's some companies that haven't gone out of business, but every other one has.
Yeah.
Dylan, this is a good question. I actually wanted to talk about SpaceX.
Wait, let me read it out for the people watching live. Dimitri, do you have any comments on the SpaceX IPO and the weirdness involved with that? For example, it going straight into the S&P 500 instead of waiting a year.
So I don't know about the weirdness, and I don't know what the mechanisms of that is, but or what I do know about this API and others like Anthropic is that they are going to take up a lot of liquidity. These are multi-trillion dollar IPOs. Now they're not raising that much money, but that's the valuation of the companies that are going to be coming in this summer. And that eats up a lot of cash that people may have otherwise spent on other things. And plus you have, of course, these founders and early investors cashing out. That is a dangerous thing for the market, which actually segues into another part that's important in investing is that picking the right company is not enough. There are macro conditions like what's going on in the world, what's going on in the country in general. You have your asset class conditions. How is the stock market doing? How is Bitcoin doing? How is gold doing? Those are different asset classes that may affect your decisions. And then how is that individual stock doing? And sectors are part of that. You could have, and this has happened to even some of the Mag 7s, that the companies are growing, their earnings are increasing, but the stock prices drop. And can anybody explain why that would ever be the case? Because like if earnings are you just pick the stock, you're like, I like electricity. I like grid build out. I'm gonna buy GEV, which is the GE spinoff that makes I think they make turbines for grid power generation. Like, okay, and then the next earnings reports, they blow it out of the water and they beat the earnings and they beat the revenue and they even guide for a better quarter next quarter. But the stock drops, hypothetically. Well, there's something called um, something called valuation compression, effectively. So because just like in private companies, and I'm sure Costum has talked about this before, but like, you can buy a septic company for 3x their profit, right? Every stock is doing the exact same thing. You buy it for some percentage of its profit. So how do you know whether to value it at 10x, 20x, 40x, 100x? Look at Tesla. They're probably at like a 300x of their profits right now. Nvidia is, I think, at 40 or something. Facebook, funny enough, is at, I think, 18. You look at some of the Asian giants like Alibaba, I think they're even lower than that. So like, why is that? And so that's another thing you have to have your pulse on is price per earnings and things like that. Neil says, not sure the profit narrative is still true. Maybe you can expand on that.
Sure. So the classic story of stock valuation is discounted cash flow against future earnings, right? Which in regular people English means that a company makes money, you buy a portion of ownership. So theoretically, you are entitled to some portion of that future stream of profit. Um, and that was true in earlier times, for sure, when companies paid dividends and all these kinds of things. But the structure of the market has changed over the past, I don't know, 30 years significantly. And there are plenty of companies that have never made a dime on net profit, and there's really no expectation for them to do so. And yet the stock continues to trade above zero. So there's at least another competing narrative that is motivating investors.
Yeah, I mean, I actually disagree with that. I think that the dot-com bubble was the prime example of that, of companies without earnings and they stick the dot-com onto it. And we've seen mirrors of, or maybe reflect, not, what's the right word? Ripples of that happening when companies would add crypto to their names and they would kind of fly without profit. Now companies are doing it by adding AI. But in terms of the S&P 500, for instance, I think they're all expected to make a profit, quite frankly. Even Tesla is making some profit. Amazon for a while wasn't making any profit, and now they're so incredibly profitable, it's not even funny. So I still think like NVIDIA, all these chip makers are making huge profits. I think they're like on $40 billion a year. Look, and Micron, the memory company, which has, I think, 6x or 10x or something since last year, they're making 40 billion a year too in profit. I mean, and
Yeah.
that's why the
No,
side that
I'm not saying profit doesn't exist or that people don't buy on it, but I'm just saying there's another competing motivation that also exists within the market, at least one.
Mm.
Yeah, certainly.
Would the competing motivation though be the expectation of future profits? Just there, now we're talking about the third dimension, which is time.
Yeah, I mean, and that has been kind of I think the stock answer for the condition, but I'm just not convinced that is really true.
Hmm.
I think there's a large element of gambler's fallacy in
Well,
the
so
stock.
I'd actually love to know what both of you think of this. I don't believe at the Adam Smith invisible hand markets are intelligent uh paradigm or frame anymore at all. I'm actually, the older I get and the more I get exposed to things, dude, I think markets are so effing stupid. I think they're extraordinarily stupid. I think they're ignorant, blind, dumb, deaf, uneducated, and it's crazy to see just the fact. I mean, there's so much arbitrage opportunity available that illustrates this in microcosms, but on the macro, even the way that we all purchase, the fact that somebody would drive a Mercedes and not a Toyota Camry is stupid, and there's a bunch of reasons why. No, I like my Mercedes. No, you don't. It's egoic and it's stupid. And I think that you take that and you cascade it across every decision that every single one of us makes. I think markets are so stupid. Um, so am I stupid? Like, fight me on that, Dimitri. Agree, disagree?
Um, I think it depends on what market you're talking about. Regarding the stock market, I think that is true. It is herd mentality.
Mm.
My neighbor's sheep have been getting under our fence, and so they've been hanging out in
Favorite
my
sentence that
pasture.
I've heard all day, dude. This is so funny to me.
And I've really enjoyed observing the sheep because the first thing I thought of watching them was like, there goes the stock market.
That is so funny.
Because one will get spooked and start running, and then all of them start running. And then one of them stops running, and they all stop running. And you see the pattern happening in the stock market too. It's there's actually a meme about it. I don't know, like we can pull it up sometime, but I think it's definitely irrational, and we've all heard the saying the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent, which is very true. It can go up and up and up and up without it making sense, but ultimately there is mean reversion. Like there really is. That we saw it in 2022. We saw it in the .com era. When valuations get too elevated, there is inevitably mean reversion. Doesn't mean that's going to happen now, but inevitably can happen. The thing is, here's the thing that maybe the doomers, the gloom and doomers don't take into account is that you look at the price of the market today, it can run irrationally such that when it actually mean reverts, it'll come down to a higher level than it is right now. So for that reason, it's not it's not optimal to wait for the crash necessarily. And depending again on the volatility that you can handle, you might want to put X amount, 2X amount, 3X amount of your portfolio, not on leverage I'm talking about, but whatever percentage, let's say 25%, 50%, or 75%.
I'm so sorry I'm going to do this, dude, but I just can't help myself. I don't mean to throw us down a rabbit hole. And I also have to jet in 6 minutes. And so I'm hoping there's maybe a quick version for us to have this conversation. And Neil, I do see your hand up. Isn't that almost solely because of fiat currency? Like, because we're built on this system that's meant to atrophy like not over time. I mean, fiat currency, like especially where we are now in the cycle, you're looking at liquid fast degradation of liquidity. And so putting your money anywhere is better than having something that's dissolving. And if we had a more stable currency, like people think we could have with crypto potentially at some point, does that change the arithmetic? Like, haven't we just created this environment for ourselves, or is there more to it?
Oh, let me jump in before Dimitri answers, because this was actually my question. Um, Earlier, Dimitri, you contrasted like treasuries at 4 to 5% versus S&P's, 8 to 10%. so my question was actually going to be, what is your view on inflation? Because if you're in that 4 to 5% and you're 70, you'll probably be fine. If you're 40, then the purchasing power of that 4% will erode to the point where you'll consume your capital on a living standard, which is tied into the fiat currency that Kasim was just asking about.
Okay. So yeah, let me answer this
Good question.
No, it's a great question. And there was another question about petrodollar, Iran, and man, all right, I got this. 4 minutes. First of all, inflation is the hidden tax that nobody talks about. Some people talk about. Wayne mentioned Bitcoin. I'm sure he knows about Jeff Booth. It's his big thesis that inflation is completely unnatural and stealing all of our money. That even 2% makes no sense because due to technology, everything should be getting cheaper, not more
We should
expensive.
be in a deflationary environment. Yes, absolutely.
So inflation is a tax that we have to all fight to avoid somehow, and that does drive more risk appetite as a result, because if we didn't care about inflation, we could all just hang out in treasuries and avoid the problem that Neil outlined. So depending on your age, it does matter. If you're younger, then you do actually have to have a bit of a higher risk tolerance and put part of your portfolio into assets like Bitcoin or the stock market or individual stocks or other investments that may yield greater than inflation replacement. The thing about inflation is actually different in different parts of the economy. So for instance, we know that TVs are in fact getting less expensive, but houses are getting more expensive. So if you're already in a house and all you need to do is consume food and TVs, then maybe you're okay. Like it just depends on
What
your
an
goals.
interesting point that is, dude. I have not heard somebody else say that.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same issue, right? With the same as the S&P, they're changing the basket of goods in the CPI that they measure to obviously to
Yeah.
lower the perception
Bread's
of
more
inflation.
expensive. Measure corn so we can convince the sheep that we're
I
okay.
actually did a whole analysis on real estate, and I made the case in this paper that the value that we get for our houses is better than it was in the 70s or 60s, our value per dollar, because we get better material, or we get better houses, bigger houses. A lot of the comparisons are like, well, you used to get a house for this percent of your income. Well, now the houses, even the entry level houses, are twice as big. They have way more high end appliances, and people spend way more of their time. They have better windows. They have bigger windows, bigger rooms, all this stuff that I actually think despite popular opinion, I think based on that analysis, we get better value.
I know. So one of my an acquaintance is one of the largest home builders in Arizona, and he talked about how he's like, dude, the difference between a house built today and the house built in the '60s. He's like, I could put up, a couple of sheet metal and a stake and call that a house, and I was great. But now there's so much in terms of like infrastructure, insulation, where the studs have to be. So just the building requirements are to the point that you're making. They're much better. Um, I want to turn the tables on you, dude, because I hate to wrap this up, and I need to. I got two little boys that I go pick up. You have a group of people on this call that I think are extraordinarily adept in a bunch of different ways. You don't know everybody, but they're all rock stars in their own rights. Everybody on this call could run the call if they wanted to, or be the guest, should be the guest at some point if anybody wants to raise their hand and say, hey, I'd like to be the guest. What can we do for you? Like, what does Dmitry Smirnov need if we were to repay you for the hour that you just gave us and your wisdom and your time? What's a needle mover? What are you trying to accomplish? What could somebody send your way?
Oh, um, oof, that's like I don't even know. I like good vibes. You can send me those. Always welcome. Um, what would help me, because okay, this is actually what would help me the most is please buy everything that Cosm ever sells to you, because as far as I've seen in my relationship with him,
This is good advice now. I can tell you. I haven't even heard it all, and this is a smart man. Go ahead. Keep going.
every single thing I've bought from Cosm has paid uh, dividends times 2, 4, 10 in more ways than just money. I think Qasim is an amazing connector. He's an amplifier. I told him that he's the galvanizer, and it really is true. So I don't need anything. I just want you guys to tell your friends about this show, and literally show up to every workshop he ever throws.
I love you a lot, dude. I really appreciate that. And I agree. I buy everything I ever sell. It's all worth it. Uh, just kidding. But we did it, dude. Thank you for coming. Did you launch that show?
Nah,
You
I'm
keep
just
talking
living.
about it.
Yeah, not yet.
This is your little nudge. Yeah, bro, I would tune in. I would be your very first subscriber. I'd be your biggest fan. I love hearing you talk. You got all these little sound bites, all these little
Here's what
clips.
I need. Here's what I'll ask from this group. If you found this interesting, but you got to be honest. You can't just do like a BS advice, because you know when people ask, "How was this for you?" Like, what are you gonna say?
Mm.
You're gonna say it was good. So since I can't see your faces, or I don't you don't have to say anything. But maybe drop a note or ask Qasim to invite me back one day, and then I'll know, like, okay, maybe I should do a show.
I'd love to have you back. I think we will do that. Dude, I'll pay for it. I'll produce it. I'll get a podcast producer on it. I've got a whole SOP. Like I'll do the whole thing. I think you'd be a force for good in the world, and you're a lot of fun to listen to.
Thank you, my friend. Love you.
I love you, brother. If you're watching this, you can have these calls summarized and sent to your inbox by going to dailysigh.ai. We'll send them daily and or weekly. You can also join the Zoom room by going to dailysigh.ai, joining the Free Forever community and clicking on the Zoom link in the calendar. Please do not forget, the Daily Sigh is brought to you by Pareto Talent. We find the greatest resources in the world, train them to be AI-enabled right hands, and then place them with overwhelmed entrepreneurs just like you. If you need help, if you want the unlock, it's not AI. I promise you that. Learning AI isn't the unlock. It's now table stakes. It's the minimum. It's the starting point. What you need is a right hand that can use AI on your behalf and from the bottom up integrated into your business. I'd love to place you with an EA personally. Go to paretotalent.com. Book a time with me. You'll be meeting with me. I'll place you according to 3 levels of analysis: soft skills, hard skills, and personality index. And I'd love to help you. If it's not for you, maybe it's for somebody you know, send them my way. My mission in life is to help people in emerging nations find meaningful work. We have 100 placed. I want 1,000, and I think we're getting there. I go live every single day at 6 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow we have Jeff Hayes coming, extraordinary documentary filmmaker, made The Real Anthony Fauci, The Real RFK Jr. He's been Academy Award shortlisted. He's phenomenal. Can't wait to hear what he has to share. And if you have a guest that you'd like to hear from, I actually got one of our favorites, one of the crowd favorites, the most cited man on this show. I just heard from his team. They're willing to come. They said next week. I'm going to try to push him back a week longer so I have more time to promote it. Plus, all next week is booked up. We have amazing guests like Dimitri coming on a semi-regular basis. Not like Dimitri. He's one in a billion and a unicorn and special and a snowflake. But other also amazing guests in their own very special way. And I think I did it, right? I'm getting pretty good at this intro outro shit, y'all. Like, it was rough for the first couple of months, but I got it down now. I love this group. I love these calls. Really appreciate all y'all. High fives. Dimitri, you're the man. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.